Hello, and welcome back to the Carbon Capture Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Piekarski, and I am joined today by Robert Smith, Carbon Transport Program Manager at the U.S. Department of Energy, Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the podcast, Robert.
Pleasure to be here.
So, a bit about Robert. He graduated from Pennsylvania State University in 1997 with a Bachelor's of Science in Petroleum and Natural Gas Engineering. He managed offshore pipeline and human factor research for 6 years at the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, which was formerly the U.S. Minerals Management Service. He was the Senior Research and Development Program Manager and led several other strategic initiatives for the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration for nearly 20 years. And Robert is currently the Carbon Transport Program Manager, administering $2.2 billion of bipartisan infrastructure law appropriations for carbon transport infrastructure, loans, grants, and front-end engineering design studies at the Department of Energy's Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. Robert will be presenting at the National Carbon Capture Conference being held November 7th and 8th in Des Moines, Iowa. He will present on a panel titled Surveying the Landscape of Federal, State, and Private Investment Driving the Development of the Carbon Capture, Storage, and Utilization Sector, which will take place at 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, November 7th. Robert, you'll be talking specifically about investing in carbon management infrastructure. Can you tell us some of the specifics that you'll focus on during your presentation?
Well, first, it's a pleasure to share information about the federal landscape with investing in the carbon management infrastructure. I think you'll see in my presentation that the focus will be on transport and storage activities in particular.
Sounds good. And are you looking forward to any specific topics at the Carbon Capture Summit?
Honestly, the entire event. I just joined DOE FECM earlier this year, so I'm pretty thirsty for knowledge and eager to better understand the full CCS landscape. I'm also excited to network, of course, and make new contacts and factor what I've learned into what we're doing at DOE.
Absolutely, and it's a great place to do that. So I understand you are working with a team to issue carbon transport infrastructure loans and grants. Can you elaborate about the opportunities available through this program?
Sure, I can. The bipartisan infrastructure law authorized the Secretary of Energy with $2.1 billion to develop and execute a carbon dioxide transport infrastructure finance innovation program that can expand carbon transport infrastructure. For loans, the BIL statute provides a loan authority guarantee through the U.S. Treasury of up to 10 times, making approximately $20 billion available. For grants, up to $500 million is anticipated by FECM. The CIFIA program is administered through an internal partnership between FECM and the Loan Programs Office, with support from the National Energy Technology Laboratory. The program is offering these loans and grants to transport modes including rail, truck, ship, barge, and pipelines. Some of the key CIFIA eligibility requirements are that a project must be a large capacity common carrier CO2 transportation infrastructure project that transports CO2 captured from multiple anthropogenic sources and/or ambient air by those modes of transportation I mentioned to areas of storage and/or use. It must have a total project cost greater than $100 million. It must be located in the United States, and it must publish by construction completion a publicly available tariff with just and reasonable rates, terms, and conditions for non-discriminatory CO2 transportation service.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So the BIL, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law that you mentioned, was issued in 2021. How is the CIFIA program coming along, and what have you achieved thus far?
So how is the program coming along? Well, the CIFIA loan program launched in October of 2022 via a program website that publicly released a program guidance document. The program guidance document describes the application process and the full eligibility requirements. The program web page advertises that the free consultation is and remains an option for potential applicants to have a discussion about eligibility. Since then, we've also hired staff and been hard at work developing workflows that address the BIL statute, legal, financial, and procurement requirements. These requirements are designed to address the combination of paths that a potential applicant can take. So depending on the interest, this means an applicant can seek a loan, a grant, or both. To address the second part of that, what have we achieved so far? The LPO opened its web portal in August of 2023 for submittal of letters of interest. An LOI is a high-level project summary and the first step in the application process. Soon after opening this portal, LPO received our very first LOI. This was reviewed, found acceptable, and the applicant was then invited to submit a full loan application. However, being pretty recent, we still are waiting on the applicant to submit their full application. You should also know that over 20 potential applicants are making good use of that free consultation I mentioned. Most are pipeline companies, but also include rail and maritime transportation. With respect to CFIA grants, DOE released a notice of intent also in August of 2023, announcing that transport operators can apply for future growth grants as part of the CFIA program once a grant funding opportunity announcement is released. These grants were also authorized through the BIL and are intended to fund up to 80% of eligible construction costs of CO2 transportation infrastructure. The key requirement is the expansion over a base project in anticipation of future, yet to be contracted increased demand or excess capacity. A grant funding opportunity announcement is anticipated for release in the coming months. And if combined with a low interest loan, also available through CFIA, provides significant finance support for transport and infrastructure construction. So most agree that future transport construction will be key to connect points of carbon capture with areas of permanent storage.
That's great to hear. Are you seeing any challenges while executing the CFIA program?
Yes, some. Let me first by listing a few most relevant to CFIA and then some CCS in general. One relates to the National Environmental Protection Act, or NEPA reviews. We believe that environmental impact statements, or EISs, will be required for the majority of the pipeline projects that would be participating. That process would start shortly after a CFIA loan or grant application is submitted and could take 18 to 24 months. While that review is underway, construction cannot begin. So for some projects, this CFIA opportunity may not be an attractive option since these timeframes are too long of a delay to their target in-service date. So our recommendation, if you are considering CFIA financing, is to talk to us early. You may be able to integrate the NEPA timeline into your overall permitting and environmental review plans. We can also explore together how you could possibly leverage environmental reviews that you might be doing with other agencies, along with considering other potential mitigating environmental factors, such as use of existing right-of-ways. Some other more general CCS challenges are that this is a complex project development environment. Transport infrastructure requires CO2 capture commitments upstream and sequestration capacity downstream. The technology, permitting, and financial considerations across those elements are complex. And on the regulatory front, the Department of Interior has not yet finalized offshore sequestration rules, and the Department of Transportation has not yet completed the updated rulemaking on CO2 pipelines.
We're coming near the end of our time here, Robert. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I look forward to participating in the conference and having some interaction with the participants.
Yes, and we look forward to having you. Thank you again for joining us on the podcast, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Again, we are joined today by Robert Smith, Carbon Transport Program Manager at the U.S. Department of Energy, Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. And thank you to our listeners. If you would like to learn more from Robert, join us on Tuesday, November 7th at 10:30 a.m. for his panel, Surveying the Landscape of Federal, State, and Private Investment Driving the Development of Carbon Capture, Storage, and Utilization Sector in Des Moines at the National Carbon Capture Conference. Until next time.